Today we are going to discuss about the famous novel by Mark Twain, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It is a novel that is one of prescribed courses in master's degree. It is a very difficult novel since it carries a multiple stories together, and in a sense it is a sequel of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Huckleberry Finn was published in the year 1884. Mark Twain's early life was very difficult. His full name was Samuel Longhorn Clemens. He is one of the greatest novelists in American literature, about whom a quote from Ernest Hemingway has come, which says that Huckleberry Finn, all American literature comes from one book by Mark Twain called Huckleberry Finn. It is the best book we have had. To understand this difficult novel, which is which carries a multi-level layered meaning, we must have to know the more important characters and themes of the novel. The important characters are Huckleberry Finn, who is called Huck, the protagonist of the novel, a 14-year-old child; Miss Watson, Widow Douglas, Jim, Pap, the Duke, and the Dauphin, the Grand Fords and Shepherd's son, the Judge Thatcher, and another judge, and lastly Tom Sawyer, who comes or who appears in the last of the novel. The important themes of the novel are racism and slavery, Christianity versus slavery, humanity versus individuality, romance versus realism, natural virtues versus imposed virtues, hypocrisy of the so-called enlightened society. Racism is perhaps the most important dominant theme of the novel. Now look a glance at the life of Mark Twain. Mark Twain was born in 1835 and died in 1910. It was a sheer coincidence that at the time of his birth and death, Halley's Comet made its appearance in the sky. When Mark Twain was at the age of 4, his family relocated to Hannibal, Mississippi. Hannibal is a town on the west bank of the river Mississippi, Missouri. He has spent the rest of his life in the town in the vicinity of river. He is schooled only up to 12-year-old since his father died. He worked as a printer, tried himself to re-establish as a publisher of a newspaper. Later on, he worked as a boat pilot. He has started his journey in the Mississippi River between St. Louis and New Orleans. It was in the year 1965 that Mark Twain wrote his first popular story, the celebrated jumping frog of Caraveras County, which was published in Saturday Press. This was written under the pseudonym Mark Twain, probably suggested by a fellow boatman. Later on, he worked as a journalist for numerous newspapers. He also began to deliver lectures, which became a major source for his income. His novels, The Gilded Age, published 1873, and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, published in 1876, established him as a novelist, and he became very popular. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which was published in the year 1884, is considered to be a sequel of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, made him the father of American literature, as per the opinion of William Faulkner. The backdrop of the novel is 1840s, when slavery was prevalent in America. The Southern American blacks were considered as commodity who could be bartered off. They were uncivilized and subjected to racial discrimination. The setting of the novel is Pittsburgh, an imaginary place near Mississippi, Missouri River. The river has been used as a great symbol which symbolizes freedom and Huck's journey of life. The current symbolizes the direction to life, to his journey. The river itself has become a character. Though the novel was written during 1880s and slavery was banned in 1866 after the Civil War was over, still the elements of slavery and racial discrimination dominated life of the Negroes. Hence, Mark Twain has chosen the backdrops of 1840s of the novel. A sequel to Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, published in 1884, bears the same tradition of a picaresque novel. It is an attempt to portray the socio-political scenario in post-Civil War America. A cursory reference is made to Twain's earlier novel, at the end of which Huck and Tom get the robbers' hidden treasury inside a cave. The money amounting to $12,000 dollars of gold is shared equally between the two friends. The money is kept by a judge, Thatcher, who invests it at interest which fetches $1 a day. We are made acquainted with all happenings and incidents mentioned in the novel through a 14-year-old adolescent narrator, Huckleberry Finn. Narrative devices used by author are: the author has used colloquial language and dialects to lend authenticity and regional flavor. The narrator Huck is a perfect rogue or picaro who goes through the journey of life. The structure of the novel is episodic and a series of stories have been pinned together. The first person unreliable narrator enhances the complexity of the novel, and the novel carries multi layered meanings. Mark Twain was the first novelist who used local color dialects, which make the life around the Mississippi alive in the novel. Through author's description of area and the river. The river itself becomes a character due to the theme of the racism that pervades the novel. Mark Twain has been also criticized. The repeated use of N word is the prime cause of critical comments. However, the novel is considered to be a masterpiece, a classic in American literature. After the money is taken by the judge, Thatcher, Huck is taken into custody by local ladies, Widow Douglas and Miss Watson. Lady Douglas treats him as her son. She is a strict disciplinarian. She wants to civilize Huck. Here, Mark Twain has used the word civilized, in which he has used S, not Z, which indicates a very deeper meaning. Lady Douglas wants Huck should learn all kinds of civilized manners. However, Huck does not take this disciplinarian attitude, but Tom Sawyer warns him that unless and until he becomes civilized, he will not include him in his new gang of robbers which Tom is planning to make. The, Now we will discuss something chapter wise, not in detail, but in a very brief way, whichever is required for the understanding of the story. The first chapter provides much of the humor. Miss Watson teaches Huck the lessons from the Bible. She says she was going to live so as to good place, which she calls heaven. Huck remarks he could not see no advantages in going where she was going. This is a kind of humor Twain has tried to create here. Huck does not laugh at the humor because he does not understand, and his literal approach does not find as such to be funny. Despite the efforts of both the sisters to civilize him, he cannot relate the concept of heaven and providence. These two ladies have been portrayed as the exponent of religious rel- exponent of religion, but do not they really practice what they preach? Widow Douglas instructs Huck not to smoke but use snuff herself, a form of tobacco. Miss Watson teaches Huck all about mosses and bulrusas. She urges him to go to do good as that he can go to heaven. But she herself propagates the concept of slavery. Huck is fed up with hypocrisy of the so-called civilized society. He does not want any kind of restrictions. He wants to be free of these chains, the societal values and norms of the educated society. He again dresses himself in his old clothes and feels satisfied to be back to his old ways of life. Thus, the contrast between freedom and civilization permeates the novel. Now, the story begins from here when Huck leaves the ladies. Huck observes his environment with practical and a logical lens and gives realistic description. Huck simply depicts as he sees. He is playful but practical, inventive but realistic, compassionate but logical. These traits allow Huck to survive. In the meantime, Pap, the father of the Huck, comes to take Huck in his own custody. He is much more interested in the money than that in Huck. Huck is kidnapped by his own father. He is put into a wooden cabin near Mississippi River. Initially, Huck is good to get away. Uh, Initially, Huck is glad to get away from the restrictions of the society and the good conduct that it demands. He enjoys his lazy days, smoking and wheeling away his time. But Huck is tortured, beaten by his father, Pap, who is a drunkard and whenever he goes outside, he locks up Huck. One day, Pipe attempts to kill him when Pipe is in the state of drunkard. Huck now decides to escape. One day, when Pipe is away, he fakes his own murder and gets away. Sin- see- Gets away by swearing blood of a pig all over his clothes. He engineers the scene inside the cabin so as to give an impression of his murder. Huck just manages to escape and reaches Jackson Island in the Mississippi River. There he meets Watson's slave, Jim, who has also escaped from Miss Watson's house as he came to know that he was likely to be sold to a slave trader from Orleans. He is also anxious about his children and family. When provide, uh, Huck provides to him that he will not let out Jim's secret. Jim narrates everything about him. Now a conflict is there in his mind. Whose mind? It is the mind of Huck. Huck now thinks whether to help Jim or not. But his conscience overcomes and he decides to help him. Both become companions and start exploiting the island. They think that the island is not safe for both of them. Soon afterwards, the river rises and a storm results. In the meanwhile, a raft with a net house strikes the island carrying a dead body. They both go near the raft to have a look inside, but Jim asks Huck not to see the face of the dead body as Jim realizes that it is Pip's father's dead body. They collect the booty, whatever is there inside the floating frame house.